Hey everyone, today we're gonna be covering this article here from the Financial Times. It's entitled okay, let me zoom out a little bit. It's called Europe must trim its welfare state to build a warfare state. It's quite shocking article. Anyways, this article was written by this dude over here called Janan Ganesh. So you're not a European, you're an immigrant. Okay, well let's not make fun of the author. We're not here for that. We're just gonna read it. It's quite fascinating. It was very popular. It was running around like it was all over Twitter. People started mentioning it, getting angry about it. So I was kind of like interested in it. So we're gonna read it. I mean, I didn't read it before, so we're gonna go through it together. So we say in the rare thing, an Angela Merkel statement that aged well, the long-serving German chancellor. Let's zoom in a little bit. Where did Europe accounted for 7% of the world's population? Oh, it was like 16% before. No, that's like the white people, not Europe. Europe is 7%. Wow. Anyway, a quarter of its economic output and half of its social spending. Those numbers have moderated somewhat in the subsequent 13 years, but the gist of her point holds. More than that, it has gained a new urgency. The reason Merkel wanted some welfare trimming was to preserve Europe's way of life, quote unquote. What way of life? I mean, the mission now is to defend Europe's lives. How? If not through a smaller welfare state, is a better armed continent to be funded. So most journalists and all that they just give you bad news. I mean, there's nothing you can learn from a media organization and all that. My goal here is to like dissect this bullshit that is over here. Now they're putting this way of life, quote unquote. I think that's quite insulting because y'all talk all the time about like how it's civilized and how it's like great and it's like, well, we have all these and okay, well, see, they're making fun of you. Now, like I said in my previous video, there was this whole destabilization of Europe that I'm talking about. It's quite important. I covered the whole destabilization in the central. It started, there's like overthrowing governments, protest everywhere. Anyway, let's continue. Like my cat is bothering me. Anyway, it says borrowing. Britain and France have tense moments with bond investor of late. So those are basically the owners. Public debt nears or exceed national output in both countries, as it does in Italy. One way around this might be some Europeanization of debt. Imagine a pact in which, in effect, Germany borrows more to defray the cost of military buildup in other countries, which in turn can do things, build nuclear weapons, post troop near Russia. That might be too taboo for Berlin to do itself. Yeah, well, we know that history. But I don't think like I do quite like Germany. I think it's one of the greatest nations in Europe. The reason they don't have like that imperial mindset. They're not like France and the United Kingdom. If they want to take something, it's close to them. It's for security reason. They don't want to go to the motherfucking Caribbean or some like New Zealand. Like no, they don't do that. Anyway, that's my point of view. I might be wrong. So the trouble is that just describing this grand bargain in words makes one wins. I mean, this is weird, like phrasing. You know, I don't know how the fuck they write this shit. It's like, what is wins? At the profound unlikelihood of it, at least in the short term, which, given the incentive of Russia to act on its territorial ambition before Europe rearm, is the term that matter. Well, we told you that this is a fat lie in the elite class that Russia is want to take over Europe. It's completely false. So the other option is to raise taxes at the margin. This could happen, but big rises in is an already undynamic continent, it will show. And they tell you, this is why I say it, it's undynamic. What did I tell you? It's dying. I mean, it's not, you're not producing anything. Like the whole thing is crumbling in front of you. So it will show that Europe has learned nothing from decades of economic torpor. I said the same thing. Y'all don't learn anything from the past or from endless competitiveness reports from America or from America. It isn't even clear that tax increases are more saleable to the electorate than spending cuts. In Britain, a government with huge mandates hasn't entirely recovered from autumn's tax-raising budget, even though its burn fell mostly on business. Twice, Emmanuel Macron has encouraged protests that shook the French state. The first was against the tax rise, and you also wanted like to rise the retirement age and all that. Like, dude, y'all just killing those people over there. Anyway, anyone under 80 who has spent their life in Europe can be excused for regarding a giant welfare state as a natural way of thinking. Well, they got, you know. In truth, it was the product of strange historical circumstances, which prevailed in the second half of the 20th century and no longer do. One was the implicit American subsidy through NATO. This is another thing. I told you. They're throwing you under the bus. The whole Europe is no longer an ally of America, and you can see it like with the plan, the $800 billion they wanna spend to rearm Europe basically. That plan that is gonna fail anyway because y'all segregated and unorganized. But the reason Europe had so much money to give to its people is because America was funding one of the most important things is the defense sector. And now, because the American empire is also declining, they're just gonna like outsource that defense. I've seen a picture, a graph. I'm gonna put it on the screen because I don't have it here. It shows that America was spending like 800 billion. No, not 800. Yeah, 800. No, 900 billion, something like that. And then there was like all these other countries like France, Germany, United Kingdom, Italy, Turkey, all of them. If you combine all of them, there's like $300 billion. You know, it's crazy. America was spending 3 times than all the major powers in Europe combined. And y'all think about defeating Russia without American subsidies? I don't know how you're gonna do that. But they're just selling you. Now they're gonna get rid of your what is called? They're gonna get rid of your welfare. I mean, I've been talking too much. Anyway, that article is a little bit too long. Anyway, it says a third helpful youngish population. It goes into the details. So the pension, healthcare liability gone. You have to start adjusting your situation if you live in Europe, because they're gonna get it. They're stealing your money in front of you, and they're writing articles and telling you what they're gonna do. So don't call me a conspiracy theorist. Like this is from Financial Times. Now these are scarcely plausible. They say nothing of the moral spectacle of the young being asked to bear arms. Yeah, and they're also gonna send you die. It would be mandatory. And keep the old in a certain style. Well, if you're old, the problem, there's also this huge thing with the fertility rate. It's like 1.5 in on average in Europe. Y'all can't even reproduce. So it's like in 10, 20 years, most of you are gonna be old. To the point of like you can't work, right? And there's no pension. And you don't have like how much you need to retire in Europe? Like €1 million? Well, you don't have 1 million and you have no way to get it. And you're not doing anything to save them. So I don't know, it will be a disaster. 10 years from now, it will be a disaster. The issue is not that the old is gonna be suffering. They're gonna be like completely homeless, in my opinion. Like half of them are gonna be homeless. The thing is like is gonna crumble to the point because there's nobody is gonna be able to work. There's no like younger generation. You're gonna be like there's gonna be a small minority, and the entire economy, and this is gonna keep stealing money. They're gonna find other ways to steal money. This is just a transfer of the wealth from the poor to the rich. It's been happening in America, happening in Canada, happening. They were doing it to the global south. They were taking money from the global south. But now, since things have changed, they're doing it to you. This is why I say, like, this is not about skin color or religion or anything. This is just transfer of wealth. So either way, the welfare state, as we have known, it must retreat somewhat. Not enough that we will no longer call it by that name, but enough to hurt. They're telling you exactly what they're gonna do to you. They're gonna hurt you and hurt your pocket, family. Your entire life is gonna be destroyed by these measures. It was never designed for a world in which living to 100 is banal. It was never meant to enable such thing as brilliant current out-of-work benefit bill. The rise in social spending over the past century has been uncannily global, encompassing Japan, US, Australia, Canada, but the absolute level are highest in Europe, and the most military exposed of those places isn't tenable. So the question is whether the public agrees. This motherfucker, but they have no shame. Like, seriously? I have to come to doubts whether rich, democratic society can make difficult reform, except in a crisis. And that's what they're gonna manufacture a crisis, like what they're doing now with they're trying to like bamboozle you with this immigrant bullshit. And then they're gonna introduce this new legislation and they're gonna go, wow, it's like the immigrant caused this. But it wasn't the immigrant, it was the rich, it was the top 1%. And they telling you you're just not paying attention. But you get too emotional about the bullshit, that means nothing. So chronic discomfort isn't enough. An element of real fear that comes appears. So anyway, defense itself. So basically, they're gonna do the same thing they did in the United States in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. Manufacturing weapons, creating conflict, fueling the money from the working class through the military industrial complex, destroying the weapons, raising the stock price. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And no more pension for you, and no more benefits. No social benefit, no health care. So that's pretty much the article by Ganesh. Anyway, that's my take on it. If you have any comments, please leave it down in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond, and see you next time.